Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I am Bessie Sinnett, and I am going to be your MC tonight. And I am so excited to introduce 10 readers to you. Well, actually, there are more than 10 because Vermilionville has a few. This event is sponsored by Festival of Words, Cultural Arts Collective. Yay, Festival of Words! This organization is dedicated to literacy in the poorest areas of our state. And we have to say that literacy is more important today than it has ever been. Because when you can read, you might be able to reason for yourself what's crazy and what's not. Right? Right. So let's continue to fund literacy because it's very important, right? All right. Thank you, Reve. Our friends at Reve have been such supporters of the arts. They have cooperated with all of our insanity as we descend upon them every year. And actually, they kind of enjoy it because they're crazy too. All right. All right, so you can show your support to this organization by buying tickets to, buying coffee, buying pastries, meals, T-shirts, coffee cups, all kind of stuff over there in the shop. And we also have a merchant's booth here with T-shirts and hats and other things for Festival of Words. So please support us. All right. This is our 6th annual Word Crawl event. It's a 12-hour fundraiser. It's gone from 12 noon to 12 midnight. We strive to inspire creative expression and a higher level of literacy to residents of St. Landry Parish and throughout Acadiana. We especially reach out to undeserved population. And we are so happy you're here, and we thank you for coming. You will hear poetry, stories, maybe songs, I don't know, I'll break out sometimes, and other creative expressions. Each person will have 10 minutes, and there is a timer. His name is Bernard, and he's adorable. There's also a sign-up list. So our timer will hold up 2 fingers. Writers, are you paying attention? Readers? Okay. He will hold up 2 fingers when there's 2 minutes left, 1 finger when there's 1 minute left, and then he's just going to go. So, okay. Okay, Bernard, would you stand so all the readers can see who you are so they know whose fingers to look at? And here's how the audience can help. You can applaud if you like what you hear. That's always a good thing. You can throw donations in the bucket. You can volunteer. We like volunteers. We need them every year. We need more and more every year, apparently. And our next venue is across the street at Omni Center. Am I correct? Yes. At Omni Center. Thank you. And that beginning time is 8. All right. I think that's it. What else am I supposed to tell you? Oh, after 8 o'clock, it's uncensored readers. So if you like things to be a little racy, that's the venues to go to. All right. Okay, I think I got you. All right, first up is my good friend and very good writer, Ms. Carol Billings Rice. Carol Billings Rice has lived in 10 states and 3 different countries. She has sailed Tahiti in a 30-foot boat, writes poetry. She has a book, Fishing in Louisiana, and has owned and trained 100 horses. Woo, give it up for Carol.
I don't know where I got all that energy because it's all left. Well, it's wonderful to be here again.
Speak right in the mic, baby.
I can't hear me.
We can't hear you either.
I don't think it's on.
Oh, it's on.
All right, then help me. I'm not a pro.
You're going to wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me, raise your hand. Not one. Alex can fix it. I could talk quite loud if you like, but I don't want to.
I think you should talk into the mic.
I do too.
Can you guys hear me?
There.
Yeah?
You got to get your mouth closer to the mic, baby.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. And excuse me, because I noticed that most of the poems I picked are about the weather and flowers, but we're stuck with it because I can't go home and revamp. All right, so my first poem is kind of long, but it tells you a lot about me. Only after 70 years in this garden did I learn to see the trees grow. They were the barometer. Pecan trees that stood lined along the road, the tallest of the trees there. The other trees, oak and chicken and red maple, spit out their leaves, taking a chance on the weather that I didn't want to take with my melon seeds. I was forced to look each day for the laggardly pecans who know when the frost is past. The pecan trees all eke out the smallest, palest tips of green one day. I planted my melons. I watched them leaf out. On the warm days, it seemed they jumped out. So I was changed, and they remain. As they were always doing their own job making seeds, I was now in a noticing state. I noticed the elm tree has small leaves, the river birch too. The small-leafed holly tree grows fast and never loses its leaves. The giant live oak turns slightly yellowish in spring, even drops a few leaves, and then, in a very deciduous manner, spits out both leaves and sometimes acorns. I started to notice the, daylilies, and the iris, and the Mexican purple flower, whose name I don't know. I started to notice the exact temperature of the air and the weight of the breeze in my side yard compared to the front yard. I found shoots of crepe myrtles in the grass and planted them farther along the row of trees on my street. I noticed that I did not like to stay inside night or day. I was moved to lay down on the driveway, still warm from the sun, to see the patterns of stars over my city. One night I was moved to do something new. I prayed to the moon to work her magic on me, that I would be more aware of nature. And she said, in a nonchalant murmur, and I noticed that too, and replied to her, Om, Om, Om. For some reason, I named this one Peace and Beauty. The hurricane is breathing on us already. We know it's coming. I don't care. I've been in hurricanes before. The sun is ignoring all the angst when people scurry here and there. I don't care. Some miss, some hit. I bought food and water. In the backyard, all the trees dance. And when the wind dies, the butterflies wander erratically, drunk on the wind. It is so engaging, so I stare away, thinking of outdoor chores to do. And then, again, indoors, I watch the weather station. The neighborhood is quiet. No children play or ride bicycles down the middle of the street, unaware of the danger of cars. And I am a child remembering a hurricane in a hangar and another hurricane in a boat tied to a dock in Hawaii. It rocked as if it were at sea. So I fell asleep. And I did survive. Here I am. Another hurricane, when I owned horses, I left them to fend for themselves. Later at the feed store, a friend said he lost a horse. He had locked it in a barn, and it fell. My first hurricane was loud and exciting until the wind picked up and my mother put us in the basement. Next day, trees like beaten giants lay helter-skelter at the park. Once, my sailor and I weathered a 3-day storm sailing to Vancouver. No sails. Grueling 6-hour watches as we steered through the disaster. 3 fish boats sank. Drunk on the wind, that was us, letting us push us to deserted islands and Polynesian picnics. I don't want to read that one. Oh, here's one. Oh, this is a lot more peaceful. It's short. Tornado. This is all about noticing the weather and everything that touches you. And I never noticed a lot of things when I was young or before I took up meditation. So, tornado. Humble are the trees snapping before it. Holy is the wind blowing across the lake. Holy the half-hidden sun. Behind angry clouds. Holy the whimpering dog, fearful as I am. Fearful as the glass shivering but holding fast. And here I am alone, defenseless, at the mercy of the elements, and yet I feel so wholly alive. Once again, I survived. I find it amazing. How did I survive so many things? Car crashes, tornadoes, hurricanes, you know. All right. When a fossil 400,000 years of age appears in the news, I feel small and short-lived, a very tiny cog in a big machine. I have done my part, having given birth to 2 humans, and also I raised an orphan child. For what? They say the fossil has a child's name, Ida. And they say she is a precursor to humans. She has fingernails like us and opposing fingers. That, too, they say, shows we come from her family, hominoids. Now today, cutting the grass better be enjoyable, or I'm going to go for a chocolate milkshake with my grandchildren to celebrate the extreme implausibility that we were ever born. Should I share our smallness with them, or just let them enjoy the precious day? Bernard, how am I doing? Well, thank God, because my voice is about to run out. And I'm having a great time, and this is a wonderful audience. Oh, I have to have one about the horses. This black horse walks like he owns each spot his hoof meets, and then his skin slinks over his muscles. The sunlight accents each move. Why then, when I approach him, is he so submissive? The life falls out of him. His body stiffens and the eyes dull. He stands motionless. I raise my hand, and the whites of his eyes so briefly as he steps back, rearing as far as the rope will allow. Then I imagine what happened. The flailing hoofs, the head held high, the backward steps, and the thud, thud, thud of a beating. I hear the yells of woe, bitter curses, and the fearful breath of the house loud in the terrible air. And thus, this is the beginning of my quest to still the fear and awaken his trust anew. Lame when I bought him, and now still injured in his soul, he is my favorite. He waits patiently. Only his eyeballs move, and the breath is shallow. I softly speak and slowly pet his hard nose between the eyes. I feel so sad for this large beast, standing now like a meek child, eyes afraid to meet mine, but hopeful for a peaceful meeting. just for this occasion. Walk in the early morning in my yard, how the fading rose bush drops petals. They lie artfully in beautiful total surrender, a daily process, glad and slow. The heat of August heavy, still dutifully she produces leaves, some new, the old yellowing with grace, the tips of the new leaves as red as a lover's bouquet.
Let's have another round for Carol Rice. Next up, we have Alicia, and if I mess this up, I'm sorry, Fasciane. Close enough? All right. She's an artist who works predominantly in clay. She recently was the recipient of an ArtSpark grant through the ACA and LIDA. Through this grant, she published her first book about her project called Close to Home.
Hi, guys. So this is the first time that I'm reading from this book. Pretty excited. And this project, Close to Home, I will be having a show at the Acadiana Center for the Arts in November. It will open, so come out to the Art Walk then down the street at the ACA and come see the visuals that go with the book. So I'm going to read excerpts from the book. So that you can understand what it's all about. Wildlife is often labeled as friend, foe, or food. This relationship between humans and wildlife can at times be confusing. The project Close to Home examines the relationship between people and wildlife when in close proximity. With permission of homeowners, I staged ceramics table settings in their yards. Growing up, I read books such as Alice in Wonderland, or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, and The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrice Potter, in which animals possess human-like qualities such as table manners. The absurdity of a bunny wearing a button-up vest or the March hare complaining about the tea service was total nonsense, but endearing and entertaining. The wonderful nonsense of these writers helped me to embrace their worlds, but the truth is, we live in a world where rabbits don't have pocket watches and never set the dinner table with bib lettuce. I always wondered what would happen if animals came upon an actual table setting. Would we find animals who weren't anthropomorphized entertaining? Can wildlife be appreciated for its true nature? In the early stages, this project was to create ceramics play settings and set them up in specific site locations in order for wildlife to interact with them. I put out a call requesting aid, in which artistic process for seeking willing participants who would grant me access to their yards. Having talked with the property owners, I found out what kind of wildlife visited each yard. I chose 11 different sites, selecting them for the variety of wildlife present as well as their geographic setting. I waited until last October, to start my stagings when food supplies in the area was becoming scarce. After testing out with paper place settings with the wildlife was in the yard, I set up freshly made table settings constructed from clay. Each setting was made of red clay and covered in porcelain slip. You'll have to come to the show to see all the visuals. In this project, wildlife were invited guests in selected yards all over Lafayette Parish in South Louisiana. The yellow dots on the map, represent the locations in which various table settings were placed. People spend a great deal of time and money on their homes and property. However, wildlife seem ambivalent to laws concerning ownership and boundaries. Fences that are used to create your own private sanctuary and keep out human trespassers can act as bridges for wildlife, inviting them in instead of keeping them out. Fake owls, special barbed wire prongs, even traps to catch, release, and kill wildlife don't always work as a deterrent. Wildlife, when determined to enter your yard, usually finds a way. As wildlife interacted with the table settings, their movements set off digital wildlife cameras that I'd staged. The video and images captured by the cameras showed how the wildlife interacted with the pieces. Once the feast was complete, the pieces were collected. No alterations, such as straightening the rim of a bowl or a cup, were made to the forms if the wildlife were rough with them. As they handled the pieces and left behind their markings, the wildlife unknowingly became co-creators. I had few expectations about the outcome other than I would probably lose a good percentage of the projects. In graduate school, I tried something similar to this project, only to discover that my ceramics were torn to small shards. At that moment, I realized that it was necessary to capture images and video of the wildlife interacting with the ceramics for the project to work. Since I didn't have the budget at the time, I shelved the project. 3 years later, I revisited this project, and thanks to the ArtSpark grant, I was able to now capture the photography and the video necessary to make this project work. The wildlife would shove over the bowls and cups in order to get to the last morsel of food, often displaying little to no table manners. Sorry, Beatrice Potter. My findings made me question the concept of functionality. It was evident in the wildlife's interaction with these forms that the value we assign to a functional object changes greatly depending on the user and the context. Journal entry, November 4th. I waited patiently for the owners of one of the staging locations to go on vacation and board their 3 dogs. Having worked out a timeline that would allow for the dog's scent to diminish, I picked a date to begin. Late one evening, when testing the site, I spotted a huge wingspan of an owl flying between the trees. I was really excited to hear that the owner had also cited evidence of owls. I thought to myself, this is going to be good. Would the owl even be interested in inspecting the food I had to offer? Probably not, but just maybe. I'd recently found out that catching a photo of an owl in a baited situation was legally complicated since owls are protected. So I looked up the proper authorities to contact if such an image was captured. Unfortunately, I had no need to contact the authorities on account of Buddy. Buddy was the neighbor's dog who happily helped himself to the table settings offerings. He was friendly enough looking Great Pyrenees, standing table height with shaggy, dusty blonde hair. Friendly or not, the other animals decided to stay away, I'm sure on account of Buddy. The absence of the other animals at my table taught me a great many things about the wildlife in an area. The properties that were the most secluded in the country ended up being the areas where there was little or no participation with my work. Despite making the food readily available, the wildlife in rural settings seemed more cautious to partake in the feasts. The wildlife seemed more, well, wild. The only animals that participated in the rural settings were domesticated cats and dogs, pets. Either the wildlife didn't trust the setup, or they deferred to the domesticated animals and their authority over the given territory, or perhaps both. How am I doing? Okay. While ceramics is still moldable and unfired in its greenware state, it is very sensitive to the elements such as air, heat, and water. In an ideal studio situation, a ceramic artist would use these elements to complete their work in a timely manner. A professional potter would probably be mortified with the way these pieces were treated. It was essential in this project to hold the clay pieces in a greenware state for as long as possible to maximize their exposure to the wildlife. There were drawbacks in this process, namely the growth of mold and the development of cracks. Precautions were taken to minimize my exposure to the mold, such as the use of a respirator and a well-ventilated outdoor workstation. The whole project became a kind of race between how the ceramics reacted to the heat from the sun and exposure to air, and rehydrating the pieces to increase the time wildlife had to interact with them. If the work was put out too firm, hardly any markings from the animals would appear on the porcelain slip surfaces. It was a delicate process full of foibles and trial and error. Thanks. Later in the project, I realized that I was missing a key component, the stories. Every person I discussed this project with had a story about a close encounter with wildlife. Hearing these stories helped create the connection I was missing with how humans interacted with the wildlife. It's as if we were peering over a fence, watching wildlife on the other side. These stories helped bridge the gap. The stories I collected contained a range of human emotion from fear to bliss and suggested that at some point in each of our lives, we had encounters with wildlife that helped shape our relationship with the natural world. I'm going to read 2 of those stories right now. The first one. I found a box turtle when I was 6. I wanted to keep it so badly, but we were fixing to go on vacation, so I picked it up and put it in my little plastic playhouse outside, thinking it would be there when I got back. I wasn't thinking about it being without food. When I got back from vacation, it was gone. I was confused about how it got out of my playhouse. About 20 years later, Mom and Dad told me they took it out of the playhouse right before we drove away to leave for vacation. There are so many more stories, and I don't want to do them a disjustice by cutting them short. So what I'll say is that in November, you can come hear more of these stories, see the videos, see the ceramic pieces at the Acadiana Center for the Arts down the street in November. And the show is called Close to Home, and I'm the artist, Alicia Fasciani. Thank you very much.
Alicia, do you have books here for sale? If anybody's interested in the book, she does have some for sale. Okay. All right, another hand for Alicia. Next up is Mike LeBlanc. Am I really that short? Mike is an amateur writer who began penning stories since he retired in 2015. He was inspired by listening to his dad's stories from childhood, the Korean War, and his other exploits. Welcome to the mic, Mike LeBlanc.
Hey, Juicy! My 87-year-old dad suddenly yells into the hallway from his nursing room home, interrupting our conversation. My eyes jump back up to his daily dry erase nursing board, where Juicy assigned her name on the nurse's assistant line with a bright red marker and large expressive cursive, the I dotted with a large red heart. Hey, baby! The mid-30s African-American woman sachets into the room, the light bouncing off her gold tooth as she smiles. Her hair is plastered to her head with wavy curls. Come give me a big hug, Juicy, my dad pleads. Juicy, trying not to smile, puts her fist on her waist and says, now why would I want to hug up on you when I walked in here 2 days ago to find you hugging up on West? Dad smiles. Why didn't you get West up in here and we'll let her watch you hug up on me? Dad laughs. Baby, you're going to have to choose. I choose both of you, Dad says, flashing his big infectious smile, his brown eyes twinkling. The banter continues until Juicy needs to get back to work. Grab you some candy out of that top drawer, Dad says. He finally gets his hug, and Juicy grabs a big handful of candy, filling up the pocket of her scrubs. Our conversation continues a while until, hey, West! West is a sweet, caring, less flamboyant nurse's assistant, and Dad gets his hug a little more easily. After chatting a while, Dad rolls his wheelchair over to the drawer and pulls out a fruit Danish, carefully wraps it in a paper towel, and hands it to her. West flashes a huge smile, and Dad's face lights up with his trademark mischievous grin. When he was younger, he looked like Dean Martin in a cowboy hat, and he's carried his good looks into his older years. Nurses, therapists, other patients, and relatives of other patients continue to stop by to chat and laugh with him throughout my visit, most of them leaving with treats. Our grocery store runs together begin to make more sense. Dad is health conscious, and he buys things I rarely see him eat, like candy, cookies, mints, Danishes, etc. The ice cream shakes he asks for that we can just leave in the refrigerator for later. It's all being used for barter, for affection and favors. I begin to think about all the perks he receives. He's in one of the few precious private rooms that are usually reserved for wealthy dignitaries, which Dad is not, the lines he's able to jump ahead of, the gifts and special treatment the staff gives him. He has all of them charmed. This is Dad's second temporary stay here for therapy in the nursing home in the last 2 years as he recovers from a 3-week hospital visit. On the first day, he quickly charmed a permanent resident named Miss Ella, and their whirlwind romance was the talk of the nursing home. She was a smart, kind lady, wheelchair-bound, that never left her room without full makeup. He would pick at her. She would laugh. They sat together in the cafeteria and held hands as they watched TV. When Dad became stronger and got back on his feet, we talked about him becoming a permanent resident there with Miss Ella. The administrator said she could work it out and was excited at the thought of having him there. He and Miss Ella could share a room, but he wasn't having it. His life was defined by his independence and adventure. He had started working at the age of 4 during the Depression, digging potatoes in the field with his uncles, and didn't stop working until he was forced to retire at 85 years old from driving a hotshot truck throughout the South. He had to begin dialysis for his weakening kidneys. His energy was boundless. The stories he shared about his life always fascinated me. As a child, he delivered Western Union telegraphs on his bicycle. He milked cows at a dairy. He chipped and delivered ice around town on a horse-drawn wagon. At 9 years old during the Depression, he began skipping school to hang out and learn from the hobos in the brush near the train tracks in Crowley. At 12, he quit school and would bartend and sometimes manage his stepdad Pete's bar when Pete went fishing. He would fight off unruly drunken customers with a pool stick. He eventually joined the radio circuit, riding bulls and bucking horses. He joined the Army, finished his education, and got a high-security job at the Pentagon delivering top-secret messages to foreign embassies with an attaché handcuffed to his arm and carrying a pistol. He served in Korea and Japan. He farmed. He gauged whales. He did several different things, but his after-hours fun was always training cutting horses and pleasure horses for people, the thing he absolutely loved the most. He was divorced twice and had several other relationships, some of them overlapping. He wasn't perfect. All that, and he could still dance a Cajun two-step with the best of them. At 85, he wasn't ready to quit. He packed his bags and moved back to my sister's house nearby. He would drive his truck to the nursing home almost daily to visit Miss Ella and spend most of his day there. But that wasn't good enough. He eventually got permission from her family to check her out for frequent long drives, which turned into overnight sleepovers at my camp a few miles away. His family was delighted to see her happy again at this late stage of her life, and of course they loved Dad. Miss Ella being wheelchair-bound and Dad's diminishing capacity complicated their travel and constantly worried us, but they figured it out. The relationship continued several months until Miss Ella eventually became sick and passed away. On Miss Ella's deathbed, she was told that Dad was on her way for a visit for what turned out to be the last time. She panicked and had the nurses scrambling to draw her eyebrows back on before Dad was allowed to enter the room. After her death, Dad continued to visit friends at the home and eat with several of them several days a week, as he had bonded with so many of them. When he returned for this stay a few weeks ago, the staff waited in line to welcome him back with big hugs. His charm hadn't faded with age. There's no sign yet of a new stepmom for me, but things tend to move quickly with him. I'm keeping my eye on Juicy. I wrote this story about 3 years ago. We lost Dad last December at age 89, but he left me a plethora of incredible stories from his amazing life, which maybe I can share with you one day. Thank you.
Short people got no reason. I told you I'd work into song eventually. Another round from Mike and his amazing father. Next up is Danielle Moreau. Danielle is reading from her first novel, and you gotta love the title, The Queen of Pablo. As Danielle says, it ain't easy being queen, especially when I'm up to no good. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I think, yeah, here we go. Like she said, this is from my book, Queen of Pabon. And this main character is Marie, and she's fighting for a piece of land against her brothers, Bernard and Clovis. Okay, and her friends are Harlan, Laureline, Tommy Dean, and she lives next door to a traiteur named Odetta. This is the love story part of the book. Did I hear wedding bells? When we get back home, I wonder why the boys aren't back from the oil rig. They should have been home by now. I'm too tired to think about anything else. I'm putting myself to bed. I open my eyes to the sun barely peeking through the window-lace curtains. I look over at Harlan sleeping next to me. He must have come in late last night. I didn't hear a peep. He looks so peaceful. I think it's time for something to happen. I've always wanted a church wedding, but I can't wait around for Harlan to pop the question. I need something to relieve my mind from the scheming that Bernard and Clovis got going on, trying to steal my piece of land. A married woman in Louisiana has more clout than a single one. Being married gives me that maturing ritual of going from being a girl to a woman. It would look good in court, too. I turn around and gently leave the bed to fix coffee. I'm going to fix him the best cup of coffee he's ever had with a little extra sugar. As I sneak into the room, I see Harlan stirring under the covers. His nose gets a whiff of the hot cafe au lait, telling him it's time to wake up. Are you awake? Here's your cup of coffee, I say as I gently hand him his cup. How long have we been together? I ask as I tilt my head and twinkle my pretty green eyes at him. About 6 months. I'm keeping track, Harlan says. He gives me a quizzical look. Well, how do you feel about us? As I ask as I'm fishing for his correct response. Why, Marie, you know you're my girl. I'm not stepping out on you, he says as he sits up, drinks his coffee without realizing how special this particular cup is. No, I don't think that. I'm thinking about us getting serious, I say as I gently caress his hair. How serious do you want to be? We're living together. What are you thinking, Marie? Harlan asks as he puts the coffee on the nightstand and pulls the covers off. I'm thinking about us getting married. I'm thinking about us getting married real soon. Don't you think it's time we do something? I ask. I expect him to cool my jets like he always does when I present a cockamamie idea. Marie, you better think very hard before you ask me that question. Where I stand, I'm all in with you, he says as he jumps up out of bed. From out of nowhere, starts to do a jig. Harlan very rarely cuts a rug off the dance floor. I need her to make a respectable woman out of you. How about we go and get us a priest right now? He says as he lifts me up out of bed, swings me in the air, and my head is truly spinning. Before I have a chance to talk this over, Harlan goes and wakes up Laureline and Tommy Dean. Get up, slowpokes. We have a wedding to attend to, he yells outside the bedroom door. Laureline opens the door with sleepy eyes. What wedding? I don't know about no wedding, she says. You do now. Get dressed. We're going to find the parish priest. And don't try to talk us out of it. I got Harlan all wound up, and I don't want him to lose it, I say. We pull up in the parking lot of the Catholic church wearing flannel shirts, blue jeans, and cowboy boots. I didn't even take time to dress properly. I knock on the rectory door that houses the priest, and the parishioner answers. Who are you looking for? She asks as she gives me a disgruntled look. Ma'am, I'm looking for Father LeBleu. Is he here right now? I ask as I peek down the hallway hoping to see him. He's not here. He's busy blessing the new grocery store in town, she says as she slams the door on me. I just smile. Nothing's gonna spoil my wedding day. We hop on down the main street with the only red light in town. I start to get in the swing of the moment, yelling out the window, we're going to get married. Harlan pulls me back in the truck, grabs a kiss while driving. Whatever's gotten into him. I'm going with it. We swerve into the driveway, half crazed, and start to hunt down Father LeBleu through the store. I find him in the vegetable aisle. Laureline grabs a bunch of broccoli from my bouquet. Harlan pulls out a high school ring from his blue jeans. Everybody in the store is part of our commotion. The storekeeper, the checkout girls, even the people waiting in line stop in their tracks. Father LeBleu has no choice but to marry us now. We got witnesses. I look at Harlan with loving eyes. This is the best day of my life. I'm going to be Harlan's wife, I shout. Father LeBleu proceeds to splash us with the holy water he was going to use to bless the grocery store. It feels cold on my face, no veil to protect me. I turn to Laureline and start to giggle, thinking, this is crazy. By the look on her face, she does too. But I know what I'm doing. It will serve me in the end. And look who I'm getting hitched to. I do, I say, looking at Harlan. He's all starry-eyed, ready for the next kiss of the ceremony. I'm wondering what was in that coffee he drank this morning. I hope Odetta's not behind this. What jar did I use for the sugar? Sometimes she misplaces her potions and gives me the wrong one. But it don't matter. Something's working. The ladies in the hot serve deli are making up fresh batch of boudin balls made from a mixture of ground pork, beef with rice, and lots of hot, spicy seasonings. Then they roll them into a ball like meatballs covered in ground cornmeal, fried up all golden brown. The ultimate Cajun snack. They serve as my hors d'oeuvres for the celebration. In the corner of my eye, I see the crowd opening up bags of rice. Two women tear open 10 packages of Hostess snowballs and stack them up to present my wedding cake. In the frenzy, carrying on, champagne bottles are a-popping and boudin balls are a-bopping. Thank you.
Oh, I need a copy of that book. Another round for our dear Danielle. I don't know about you, but she better be letting us all know when that book comes out. All right. Our next up, Mary Beth Broussard is an occupational therapist. She has recently combined her interest in working with children and writing and has developed a passion of writing children's books. So she'll be reading next. Welcome her to the mic.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth, and the story is called Amelie and the Mongolais Tea. It's loosely based, oh, I'm sorry, better? Okay.
Kind of be real close to this one.
Real
Super
close.
sensitive. So either pull it straight. There you go.
Okay. How's that? Okay. So my story is called Amelie and the Mongolais Tea. It's based loosely on a home health visit I did with a very eccentric Cajun family. And the Mongolais branch is it's a plant that grows in Brobridge, Arnaville, and they use it to make tea. It's medicinal. So that, just a little background. Okay. Amelie's stomach hurt. She pressed the hands of her belly and felt the rumbles and gurgles as she lay under her grandmother's quilt. The quilt smelled like her grandmother's, spicy and sweet, cayenne and lavender. Some kids at school called their grandmother Granny or Mama, but in her family they said Grandmère, which in French is grandmother. She slid beneath the quilt with only her gumbo brown eyes peeking out. She couldn't be sad at Grandmère's house. Her mother said she was spoiled by her grandmother, and she knew it was true. As soon as she got there, Grandmère had settled Amelie in the quilted sofa nest. Poor Tibet, Grandmère cooed. Now stay there, Sha. Grandma's going to fix you right, she said. Amelie listened as her mother gave Grandmère instructions about taking that yucky pink medicine. Her mother set the medicine bottle on the counter with the measuring cup next to it. Okay, Sha, Grandmère said. I'll take it. Now go to work. Mama bent down and kissed Amelie. Love you, she said. Love you more, Amelie replied. Once the screen door shut, Grandmere began to busy herself in the kitchen. Amelie liked the sound of Grandmere in the kitchen. There was a rhythm of pots and pans clanging, feet marching on hardwood floors, cabinet doors squeaking open and banging shut. The kitchen music soothed her to sleep. She woke to hear her grandmother on the phone. Jacques, I need you to go get me some mangoli branches. Mais oui, today. Amelie is sick. I think she has a fever. Thank you, Shab. No, Grandmere. I don't want any of that tea. It will make me sweat, and it's bitter, Amelie said. But her grandmother paid no attention to her complaints. Now, Amelie, that tea's going to set your stomach right. The way I make it with some honey and lemon tastes good, she said. But Amelie did not believe a word. She could not defy her grandmother. The last time she had a cold, Uncle Tally made her the tea, and she had spit it out because it was so bitter. It can't be made to taste good, but I'll drink it, she said. Then a booming sound, loud as a thunderstorm, came from the porch. It was Uncle Tyree pounding his work boots on the steps, dropping a toolbox on the porch, and marching inside like he was in a Mardi Gras parade. Mama, is there boudin left over? He asked in a half yell. He stomped over and ruffled Grandmere's lily white hair. May you a bad boy, Tyree. Go back outside on the porch and get the rest of that dirt off your boots, she demanded. Tyree, who was the baby of the family, did as he was told, because even though he was grown, he did not disobey his mama. Uncle Tyree sat next to her on the couch with the leek of boudin wrapped in the paper towel. The smell of the boudin, which she normally loved, made her stomach turn flips. No, Uncle, get that away. It's making me sick, Amelie said. Are you going to make her some tea? Tyree asked Grandmere. Mais yes, I'm waiting for Jacques. Amelie rested her head on Tyree's shoulder. Manu jumped on her lap and began to make biscuits. Manu, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm glad my stomach was upset today. I like being here, even if I have to drink that tea and hear all that noise. The front door opened, and there stood Uncle Jacques grinning. He held the mangoli branches in one hand and a bag of satsumas in the other. His dachshund Andouille tore into the house after Manu. Round and round they went. Allons, Grandmere said. Grandmere took the branches, pulled off the leaves, and rinsed them. Then she placed the leaves in a pot of water and let it boil. Once she was done, she added some honey and lemon to cut the bitter taste. She took down Amelie's favorite magnolia cup and poured the tea, adding a pinch of sugar. Drink this, Sha. You will feel better, Grandmere cooed. Amelie drank it slowly. It was bitter, but the honey and lemon and sugar did help the taste. She felt all warm and cozy inside the little shotgun house. The end. Do I have on time? Okay. So this one kind of came from, some of the characters came from this story. It's also based on our dachshund that we named Andouille. So this is called, and Le Rat de Bois, if you don't know, is possum in Cajun, which means the rat of the woods. So Andouille stretched his long dachshund body and pointed his nose in the air. He smelled bacon cooking and caught a whiff of Margot's jasmine perfume. Could it be, he thought? He was not sure. Jacques, you look mighty fine, Margot said. When Jacques came in wearing his fancy going-to-church suit, Jacques spun around and Andouille knew he was right. Today is Sunday, barbecue day, he thought. He jumped up and bolted through the house like a dachshund missile. Sha, Andouille, you know what today is, mon petit bon chien, Margot said. She bent down to scratch his head and rubbed his long back. Andouille responded with licks and tail wags. Watch the house, Andouille, while we're at Mass. If you're a good boy, then you can come to the barbecue, says Jacques. Andouille's ears perked up at the mention of that beautiful word, barbecue. And in his excitement, he could think of nothing else to do but chase his tail. Say fou, Andouille, Jacques said with a laugh, and patted his head. Au revoir, be good, said Margot. Andouille nested in his bone-shaped bed, determined to be a bon chien and guard the house. He was just beginning to dream of tender ribs and crunchy bones when a foul, swampy smell woke him. It was coming from outside. He popped out the dog door and saw the intruder, Le Rat de Bois. A possum was eating from his dog bowl. Bark, 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 said Andouille. He watched with pride as Le Rat de Bois fell over on his side with 2 paws in the air. Well, he thought, say two. He pranced back in the house, triumphant, and settled back into his cozy bed. But the stinky smell drifted back in the house. Mais non, this can't be, he thought. He turned to see Le Rat de Bois sitting under the kitchen table, munching on a piece of bacon and watching him with beady red eyes. He had bits of crawfish house mud in his claws. Bark, 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 said Andouille, but the animal refused to move. It hissed at him, showing sharp yellow teeth. Mais la, this is not good, Andouille thought. Wait, hold up. He sulked in his bed. Wait, I'm sorry. I think I'm messing up the page here. Oh. Okay, then Le Rat de Bois fell over. This time Andouille was not fooled. He circled Le Rat de Bois, barking and growling, but he refused to move. He waited and nothing happened. Le Rat de Bois stayed on the floor, frozen like a statue. Andouille decided he needed to act. If Le Rat de Bois was not going to move on his own, then he would have to do it. So carefully, Andouille grabbed the possum's tail between his teeth and began to pull it towards the dog door. He was almost completely through the door when Le Rat de Bois turned and scratched him on his nose and then bolted across the yard under the fence. Andouille cried out with a squeaky yelp and ran in the house. The bitter taste of possum was in his mouth and his nose hurt. He noticed the white, wiry fur and bits of mud on the hardwood floor. He just knew there would be no Sunday barbecue for him. He sulked in his bed and jumped when he heard the door slam. Margot's heels made a clip-clop sound on the steps, and he tried to make himself as small as a mosquito in his bone-shaped bed. Margot walked in the kitchen, scrunched up her nose. What is it? What is that smell? Andouille, Andouille. Andouille waited for his punishment, but instead he heard her say, Andouille is hurt. Allons, allons. She scooped up Andouille, covered his black head with lipstick kisses. Jacques got the medicine while Margot held him tight, and he realized he was not in trouble. Je t'aime, Andouille, Margot said. Manu wandered in, licked his sore nose with her rough tongue. Margot and Jacques swept up the possum fur, bandaged his nose, praised him for being a bon chien. Très bien, Andouille, Jacques said. Andouille became the star of the Sunday barbecue. Tyree gave him extra juicy ribs, and Grandmère called, Come see, chat. She sneaked him bites of boudin under the shade of the magnolia tree. Man, you a good little sausage dog, she said. It was the best Sunday barbecue ever. Yeah.
Ooh, that was fun. All right, short people. Now, for the next readers, please get your mouth right up on the mic and talk right into it. If you do not do that, we cannot hear you. How's that?
Man, if you don't talk into the mic, man, nobody gonna hear what you got to say, okay? Oh.
Man, I'm from Baie-Lafourche, you don't talk like that. Okay. Our next act up, we have 3 readers who will be reading excerpts from historical time periods. So each performer is dressed in the time period, and they will be reading excerpts from that, and they are from the Vermilion Living History Museum. Dejamel Garnier, Nika Mir, and M. Lemieux.
Good afternoon. We are going to be reading excerpts from the 1800s and early 1900s, which is why we're dressed like this. But every day at Vermilionville, we interpret living history the way people in this area used to live long ago. I'm wearing clothing from the 1850s, and what I'm going to be reading to you today is some excerpts from the diary of a cattle rancher from November 4th, 1854 through February 15th, 1855. These are excerpts from cattle owner William Duncan. It documents a journey taking his cattle to New Orleans, so it's a typical 18th century Louisiana cattle drive. The complete diary has entries for almost every day of the journey. The round trip took about 4 months, but I am going to be reading some selected excerpts from this man's diary. Wednesday, November 4th. We started this morning after breakfast, went to the crossing on Cypress, could not cross, turned up through the prairie. Came to Colton's, 18 miles, and stayed all night, 150. Saturday the 5th, this morning I got up early, ate breakfast, and turned out my beeves. I started them and went back to the house, remained until 2:30 o'clock, and started. Got to the march at 5, and at Thomas Deaver at dark. I found the beeves in the pen, and such a pen. Lay down and tried to sleep, but it was rather too cold. 5 o'clock. Saturday the 11th. Got up this morning before light, hung my blanket coat on a stick by the fire to dry, then went to the house to feed and get breakfast. Returned and found my coat all burnt up. Weather bad and raining and a little cold. We drove on to Mrs. Coward's, got dinner, paid $1.75. Then came to Andrews, stayed all night, and paid $7. Monday the 13th, Blair Johnson, Jim, and myself slept at the pen. When we got up this morning, found one of the whitest frosts I ever saw. Made and drank coffee, turned out the beeves, went to the house, fed and ate, and sent Louis, Salia, and Leomar to her beeves while we were at the house. Louis turned back from here, gave him $10. We drove on. I felt exceedingly low-spirited this morning without knowing why. Slept at Pine Island, made coffee, ate a little dinner, and came to Mrs. Antwine. Stayed, $5. Wednesday the 15th. This morning we got breakfast and turned out. I left a lame beef, black branded, and we drove on to Louis Victor. Got dinner, paid $1, and drove on to Magazine LeBlanc's and stayed all night. Thursday the 16th, this morning I got a horse from Magazine and left my drove there. I went to Valerie Martin's and got dinner, then went on to Lafayette, bought a coat and a pair of gloves. Then went to Brobridge, stopped a short time, went on to V. Gilbo's, took days 23 and 25 to cross. Then we went to Charles Gautier's, stayed all night. Saturday the 18th, after breakfast this morning, we started and drove on to Valerie Martin's. Arrived there about 3 o'clock, penned, and went to the house and got dinner. Gill and Robeson arrived just from Orleans and gave very bad accounts from the city. I stayed all night. Wednesday, the 22nd. After breakfast, I went out, old man Gautier and 2 little boys and Jim. I turned out my beeves and then took them to water. Left Jim and the 2 boys to herd them. I came to the house and wrote part of a letter, ate dinner, and went to V. Gilbo's. Found no one home. Went to Z. Broussard's, talked some time. Concluded it would be better to send part of my beeves on to the coast. Came back, put my beeves in the pasture. Went to the house, ate supper, went in my room to go to bed, and began writing down this day's proceedings. Monday, the 27th. This morning, Tevis and I concluded to ship. Phelps would not. In the evening, Tevis and I put our beeves on the boat and started. Tuesday, the 28th. This morning when I got up, I found the boat tied up on account of fog, 40 or 50 miles above New Orleans. Got in town about 12 o'clock. Could get nothing but a day lot to put my beeves in, and bought a bale of hay and gave them $4.60. Every beef merchant had so many cattle on hand that I could get no one to sell mine. Friday, December the 1st, done nothing particular.
My name There we go. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, my name is Nika, and I work at Vermilionville demonstrating basketry. And so this is a letter from the wife of the chief of our tribe from the early 1900s to Sarah McElhinney Bradford, wife of Sidney Bradford. And it really gives an idea of what this woman went through to preserve our tribal land and our basketry. Dear Mrs. Sidney, I drop you these few lines to let you know I did send your baskets today because I have them all made. But I will send you what I have Monday. Dear Mrs. Sidney, I try my best to have them made, but we have too much trouble. I cannot work on my baskets right now, and because my sister-in-law, she is very sick. Amelie Darden has been 2 months in bed now, and I have to care for her. She is paralyzed. She cannot move herself, but I will send what the others have made. They have a few made, and we are in another big trouble again. The white people here want to sue us for our land for taxes. Dear Mrs. Sidney, I am ashamed to impose too much on you, but I want to ask you to write to Congress to see and find out if we have to pay taxes. We have a lawyer in New Orleans. He is all the time telling us not to pay taxes because the Indians, he says, have no right to pay taxes. But we did pay some now, and they want to take our land away from us. We don't know what to do. They don't help us. They wish to see us away from here. I don't know what we did to them. We didn't do nothing, you know. We have a piece of land here. They want to stand up a lawsuit for the half of it. They say they will take it for $100. There is a lawyer in Franklin. He says if we give him $100, he will save it for us. So we wish for him to take the suit. And if you please help us some, we will be very glad you do for us. I am sure my husband makes more than $100 in a year, and myself, I make more than $100 a year. I am sure that I will pay you before a year with my baskets. You say you take me for a friend. I take you the same. Now please, Miss Sidney, answer me soon to let me know what you can do for us. And please don't forget to write to Congress for us so we will know the right way, because here the people are fooling us so much. They think because we are Indian, they can do what they want with us, but I think we are people. We are not dogs. I hope I will hear soon from you. I wish you will do this soon for us because they will sue us in January. I remain your true friend, Christine Paul.
Got a hand for Nika. She's an incredible basket maker, Chitamacha. So my name's John Magagne. A lot of you already know me, but I work at Vermilionville too. In the War of 1812 was between America and Britain, which concluded with the Treaty of Ghent on December 24th, 1814. However, some British troops who did not get the news of the treaty attacked New Orleans in January 1815, but was defeated by Andrew Jackson's army. Here's a poem attributed to Hippolyte Castra, a free person of color and a soldier who served in the Battle of New Orleans, voicing bitterness because of privileges denied them. This poem is from the archives of Poet Laureate Marcus Bruce Christian. Those archives are at UNO. La campagne de 10 ans, la campagne de 1814 au 1815. Je me souviens qu'un jour, dans mon enfance, un beau matin, ma mère, en soupirant, m'a dit, « Enfant, en blanc d'innocence, tu ne sais pas l'avenir qui t'attend. Sous ce beau ciel, tu crois voir ta patrie. De ton erreur revient, mon tendre fils, et croire surtout en ta mère chérie. Ici, tout n'est qu'un objet de mépris. » 10 ans après, sur nos vastes frontières, on entendit le canon des Anglais. Nous sommes tous nés de sang louisianais. À ces deux mots, en embrassant ma mère, je vous suivis en répétant vos cris. Ne passons pas dans ma cause guerrière que je n'étais qu'un objet de mépris. En arrivant sur le champ de bataille, j'ai combattu comme un brave guerrier. Ni les boulets, non plus que les mitrailles, jamais, jamais ne purent enfrérer. Je me battis comme cette lance dans l'espoir sur le sévère mon pays. Ne passons pas que ma récompense, je ne serai qu'un objet de mépris. Après avoir remporté la victoire dans ces terribles et glorieux combats, vous m'avez tout dans vos coupés fait boire en m'appelant des valeureux soldats. Moi, sans regret, avoir un cœur sincère. Et là, j'ai bu. Vous croyant, mes amis, ne passons pas dans ma joie éphémère que je n'étais qu'un objet de mépris. Mais aujourd'hui, tristement, je soupire, car j'aperçois en vous changement. Je ne vois plus ce gracieux sourire. Oui, se montrer autrefois si souvent avec éclat sous vos néeuses bouches. Devenez-vous pour moi des ennemis? Ah, je les vois dans vos regards farouches. Je ne suis plus qu'un objet de mépris. The first three verses remembers the innocence his mother warned him of, that he is but an object of scorn. What follows are the last two verses. After we bought back victory from the brink of the abscess of red and glorious war, out of your cups and gladly made me drink, while calling me a brave soldier. Therefore, with sincere heart and with one regret, I drank, believing your friends newly born, in my unearthly not thinking yet that I was a thing of hate and scorn. And that I think of hate and scorn. And I'll finish off early. If you're at the UNO, check out the archives.
So we have a lot to thank Vermilionville for. They have done so much to preserve culture and to help us understand, you know, our roots and where we come from in Acadiana. And another round of applause for Vermilionville. So out of all of this list of people and all of their little short bios and everything, I get my next poet obviously doesn't do anything at all, but she is my godchild, so I got to be nice about it. What I do have is one line that says, Alex Johnson is an award-winning spoken word artist and performing arts coordinator. And so welcome now to the mic, Alex Poetic Soul.
And because we're so close, I get to mess with her. Oompa loompa doompa doo. I've got another poem for you. It's nice that I don't do a lot. It's nice that somebody didn't write that I did all kind of stuff, because I needed vacation, so I'll take that blank spot on the page. If you want to know what I do, you can Google me, because I hate talking about myself. Just, yeah, that might have sounded a bit self-righteous and all of that shit. Excuse my language. But yeah, you can follow me on social media, Poetic Soul 337, my website, poeticsoul337.com. I'm a teaching artist, a traveling performer. I'm working right now with the Lafayette Parish Juvenile Detention Home. I teach the incarcerated youth spoken word poetry, and we are installing their poem, The Eyes of the Sun poem, as a mural at 2 locations. The first location, Mesh's Donuts on Willow Street. If you go there now, you'll see that it's completely transformed. And then the Martin Luther King Center on Willow, 302 Cora Street. And that 30 feet up will wrap around the building. So we are completely trying to, we're trying to completely revitalize the community through art, right? So that was 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes, great. I do have product as well over there, administrative things, my album, my shirts, great. Ready for some poetry? Shameless plug, right? Yeah. My first poem, and you guys get to choose. Yeah. So we have I Am Griselda Blanco or Power of Black Woman. Power of Black Woman. Great. You guys can hear me okay, right? Okay. The day after Alton Sterling lost his right to breathe, Black women prayed to bury aggression. So they couldn't use emotion to justify suicide. Tried to lynch her dreams, say her screams ring too loud. When father lie bloody pavement, tell her swallow anguish with opioids. Xanax, prescribe her addiction, say her torment sound too much like begging. Like benefit, body bent backwards, tell her help smell too much like freedom. Like dignity, rather lodge her head under vehicle. Say rocks against naked flesh hurt less than bullwhip, than shotgun. That 10-minute cavity search is not rape, is justified, is only way to find source of black girl magic. Tell media make her body viral. Broadcast her pain like everyone is strong enough to take this, to adapt. Strong enough to survive, then mock her trauma when her womb aches of bullets, declaring war against water gun, against illness, against infant. Tell her no one care better for her children than system, than casket. Say her voice sound too strong, too loud, too vivid. Then the media ask her how she does it. How she continues, most unprotected species on planet, all gladiator spirit and faith. Black woman tunnel beneath struggle with prayer. Carry family through broken mirrors so deception don't poison the seed. How much passion do they need black women to bleed? She will never hide like fragile officers forced to face their reflection. Fail to protect, fail to serve like black women didn't nurse this nation strong. All red, white, blue, lashes on back, head up because she knows that freedom already belongs to her. That there is nothing they can do to break her faith. Covered in the blood, black women already know that God, that God gonna get them. But how much passion do they need black women to bleed? Thank you. I love all of our news team. I love our weather team, right? But I feel like the anchormen and women are lying because it feels like 132 degrees right now outside. And, and it's like we're breathing cheesecake. It's so humid. It's so thick. Okay. Don't forget, I have products. Make sure you see Ascension, the artist, there, or Vice President of Festival Words, Maurice Touchette, or me. You guys ready for I Am Griselda Blanco? Raise your hand if you know who Griselda Blanco is. Raise your hand if you know who Pablo Escobar is. Everybody knows Pablo, of course. If it weren't for Griselda Blanco, Pablo would not have gotten in this country to do anything. His drugs would not have gotten here without her intuitive inventions of how to smuggle drugs into the United States and made the passports for the narco cartel to get here. This is her story. They called me La Madrina, the Black Widow. Say I baddest one in the land. I tell them I'm not bad one. I'm a survivor. No, I'm sorry. Can we curse here? No? No? Yeah? We don't care? Yeah? Great, because it's much better if I curse. Great. It's not bad though. They call me La Madrina, the Black Widow, say I baddest bitch in the land. I tell them I'm not bitch. I'm a lion. La Leona, people cower at the sound of my voice, make everything my way. Say I, godmother of cocaine. Me, Griselda Blanco, la reina colombiana. I say I entrepreneur, businesswoman. If it weren't for me, Pablo never would have made enough money to build those hospitals. But they call us criminals. Well, maybe I did have a few bodies dangling from my web. Te mato por nada. But I'm no monster. I'm a survivor. Since I left my mother's womb, God made me a fighter, una guerrera. 11 years old, he held me down. He stroked my hair. Mama tell me pretend I like it. I know one's puta, so I left my innocence in the bullet I put through his back. Where was La Policia when he taught my soul to capture innocent life? But they called me a monster. Why didn't anyone come to save me? When I had nothing, una niña, no one came to save me. Only God kept me. Solo Dios me protege. El que reza y peca empata. He who sins but prays breaks even. I learned those streets with my head up. I'm a passport so real, even FBI no tell difference. There is nothing impossible for me. And at least I raise my boys to be men. Tell me I'm horrible mother. I gave my children the life you dream of. The only way I knew to raise my sons, I did it. I taught them to be men, strong. I taught them to love each other, keep each other in prayer, in spirit, in love. Mis amores, maybe we're not perfect like you, but we stand up for each other, for what is right. Por la familia, I am proud of my sons and I love them. More than my parents could ever have loved me. Yo Griselda Blanco, I'm no monster. I'm a survivor, a child de Dios, a warrior. I overcame. I don't give a fuck what you think of me. I am Griselda Blanco. Thank you. Blessings, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
My poor godchild, she don't have no talent at all. Let's hear it again for Alex Poetic Soul. Okay, next up to the mic, Suzanne Wiltz. I saw Suzanne grow up. We live 2 doors down from this child. Suzanne is a graduate of Tulane University. She lives and works in Louisiana. Her work has appeared in several publications. She is a member of Green River Writers, based in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome, Suzanne Wiltz.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Can you all hear me? All right, great. I'm going to begin with a poem called Mercy. You greet me and everyone else who enters this would-be cafe with bonjour, with no semblance of a French accent. But I am charmed, and I respond in the moment with a weak hello. You take your time putting my food together, ticking off each item on your corporate checklist, wearing your company-approved paper chef's hat. You dance from station to station in a not quite bourrée and gather my order of not quite French cuisine. Even so, I appreciate you, oh non-Frenchman, and I admire your due diligence on the job, so very un-French. As you hand me my order to go, your merci sounds like mercy, and it is. reception. My antenna and I search for a signal, doing that electromagnetic dance in which it shouts at my touch and hisses its displeasure when I withdraw. Together, we accept the invitation to eavesdrop on the world, opening ourselves to whatever is offered: elation or erudition, disco or despair, sermons or sex, blues or bluegrass. Together, we celebrate the holy hymn of humanity and are transmitted to the opera, the newsroom, the mosh pit, the garage, the temple. Together, we celebrate what it means to receive. This next poem has a title and then an alternate title, as do many of my poems, because I can never really settle on one until about after 3 or 4 years of tinkering with it. So this one is called Balance or Esplanade Avenue, whichever you want to go with. He signals his imminent turn with the lazy confidence of a longtime cyclist, jutting his hand out, a second nature formality. On this perilous street, he owns the blacktop and the turn that he is about to execute. He is monochrome in motion, dressed in the same faded brown as his plain and gearless bike, a cyborg cyclist merging man and machine, a balanced pair at 7 miles per hour. Tourism conference. I've never had a head for figures, and that trend is not reversed by this speaker. Instead, my head is filled with your figure, close at my right side. My hand wants to trespass through your hair, a short trip, admittedly, then take a tour of your back, tracing all your points of interest. Let's take a tour to your undisclosed places, ditch this conference, and privately confer the cost of an overnight stay. How many time? Minutes. 60 seconds pass in this meeting of no import, x-raying the plans of optimists and liars, tasking out my time, talents, and training, yoking my life to the passion projects of others, setting down who said what, eagerly awaiting the conclusion of this confessional of the well-intentioned, overworked, and overcommitted, neurotic overachievers, opportunists, and do-gooders on a mission to save this fill in the blank. Pleased finally to hear adjourned, able to escape this drudgery, stuff pen and paper into my bag, and steer myself home in minutes. So since I'm in a community of writers, I think you all will have an intimate knowledge of this brief poem, which is called Editor's Note. Editor's Note. Omit the last line. You creep into all of my poems, even the ones that aren't about you. without an antecedent, you break through the lines. Between the two of us, we both know who committed the sins of omission. You. Adjacent. You and I form a crowd of two in the poetry section. I'm undecided between the soldier poet and the romantic one. I glance over to see what books have your attention, only to discover that you're on an errand for three, as poetry is adjacent to parenting. Second summer at the festival. 1, out of costume. You captivate me as a spectator, so changed from last summer when I saw you on stage. Without last summer's tan, this lighter self seems like a pale counterpart to the character you were before. Sun-kissed and awash in stage lights. What to make of this plain clothes you? Baby blue button-up shirt, board shorts, head crowned with surprising dark curls, no longer imprisoned beneath a dark fedora. Your locks and yourself allow freedom of expression. Speaking to a friend in your regular rhythm, no longer constrained by iambic pentameter, in hushed free verse, you critique your co-conspirators of the year before. Your laugh is youthful, goofy, and carefree, so much in contrast to who you were before. No fancy fedora-wearing partisan would laugh like that. You seem more real, yet changed. 2, off book. Without a seat as my mark, I am lost in the lobby, adrift without a drink. Without a script, I am silent, too timid to take a chance to speak to you of this or that play. Flickering lights signal us to move back into the dark play space in an anonymous tandem dance. 3, applause. We applaud together for what we have witnessed. You for your friends, former foes, fellow players. I for them and for you. The you of yesteryear, costume clad and captivating, and for you now, a lovely and unexpected sideshow. Thank you.
Okay, let's have another round of applause for Miss Suzanne Wiltz, Franklin resident. Oh boy, we have props. Yay! Okay, Nancy Copenhagen. Nancy is a mother of 5 and grandmother of 9, with grandchildren ranging from newborn to 22 years old. God, you don't look that old.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. She's lived in the St. Streets for almost 20 years, but is a transplant from Missouri by way of Texas, then Slidell, then New Iberia, then moved to Lafayette. Okay, welcome, Miss Nancy Copenhagen.
Well, today, since it's the week that we've all been in reflection of the 9/11 event of the World Trade Center, I thought I would focus my presentation about 9/11. I'm a flight attendant. When I was 50, a I was going through a divorce, and my friend called and said, I think you should be a flight attendant. I'm like, what? Because I didn't even know people 50 years old could be a flight attendant. I love to travel. So I ended up, after I did my training, I ended up in New York with 6 bags, and I was going to my crash pad, it's called. And I was based in New York when 9/11 happened. And if we all look back on 9/11, immediately we can remember where we were, what we were doing. It's like we touch a remote, and immediately we were placed in that position. And I think that we all became aware of evil that day. And it seems like evil has been trying to creep into our American life ever since. I mean, even to come downtown for an event, I don't know about you guys, but I'm always kind of aware of evil, looking for it. Will it show up today here in our town? And I believe that caring about each other is what we've learned from this evil, that from evil, all things good can happen. Years ago, I went to a speech, and this lady said, if in doubt, reach out. So I try to live that as my motto. And then another phrase was, I was waiting for someone to do something, then I realized I am someone, okay? Now I'm the old lady in the Saint Streets. So if anything bad is going on, I call the city and let them know, so I am someone. But you might be wondering, where did I get this poster? I think I'm gonna retire. I think it's gonna be worth a lot of money someday. Now, I was overnighting in Burlington, Vermont. Have any of you ever been to Burlington, Vermont? Lovely, lovely. And every day when we would go through the administration office to the plane, I noticed this poster behind a filing cabinet. So I put a sticker on it on the first day, can I have it? The second week, can I have it? The third week, can I have it? And on the fourth week, there was a note that said, take it. So I thought they were going to roll the poster up, but no, they gave me the whole frame and everything. So the captain's like, you're taking the whole frame on the plane? Yes, I am. Now, I was living in New Jersey in a crash pad. Now, there's 12 people in 2 bedrooms. So, but the good news is the flight attendants are never all there together. But we had no artwork on the wall. So on Saturday, I placed this poster above our couch because we had nothing else. So when you open the door, this was our poster. That was on Saturday. And on Tuesday, the World Trade Center went down. So I was in Burlington, Vermont when the World Trade Center went down. Isn't it interesting? As I was writing this up for this presentation today, I realized I got the poster in Burlington, Vermont. So there must be some connection to this poster. I'm not really sure what. I'll have to think about that. When I went downstairs to have breakfast in the Hampton Inn that morning, you guys remember those great big TVs? They were a great big box. It was the first widescreen TV. And this one man and I were sitting down there, and we saw the hole in the building. How many of you saw that and just happened to have the TV on that day? Well, I'm thinking, oh my God, a pilot has had a heart attack, and they've flown the plane into the building. That was my first thought. Because when I first started, I was on an airplane called the ATR. Has anybody ever been in that great big lumbering airplane? It was a propeller plane. And we were the only ones that were allowed to fly low. And we would go down the Hudson River. The pilot would tip the plane. We would circle the Statue of Liberty. And then we would come into the Newark airport. And people believed that was the best part of their vacation. So I was very familiar with the World Trade Center. I would do a little commentary about what we were looking at. And I would have the passengers wave at the people in the World Trade Center as we went by. Then When I saw the second plane go into the World Trade Center, then I was really confused, because how could there be two pilots? I'm blonde, you see. How could there be two pilots that had a heart attack on the same day? I just couldn't believe it. And then the man sitting beside me said, this has to be a terrorist attack. Hadn't entered my brain. So I thought, I wondered if this is how our parents felt when they heard the news of Pearl Harbor. You know, very similar situation. I immediately started to worry about my first cousin's only son, Kaz, who was working in the World Trade Center. As I climbed the 4 flights up to my room to call my cousin Kathy, I remember feeling really sad and my heart aching for her that perhaps her only son was gone. After calling many times, very hard to get a call through, I finally got her on the phone, and she said she'd just gotten off the phone with her son, and he had gone to get his driver license renewed. How much do we love going to the DMV, right? So what I learned is that everybody is where they're supposed to be, you know? And that was not his time. Today, he is a father of a little baby girl. So I decided to call my husband so he could tell our kids that their cousin Kaz was okay. I never once thought that they would be worried about me. How crazy is that? I'm a flight attendant in New York, but I didn't think they'd be worried about me. I had to get operator assistance, as finally the call went through. To my surprise, my husband said, wait, let me sit down. We were so worried about you. The kids have been calling. We were separated at the time, and I remember thinking how good it felt that he even cared whether I was alive or dead. If any of you have gone through a divorce, you know what I'm saying. I asked him to let them know that I was fine. I had no idea when I would be coming home to Louisiana or how long I would be in Burlington, Vermont. All planes were grounded, and no flights would be going that day, and we didn't know what day they'd be going. There were 3 crews from the Continental Airlines that were in the Hampton that day. And so we became like a family. There was 3 to each crew. So that would be 9 people. Our mood was very sober. It seemed sacrilegious to be having fun. Do you guys remember that? You hated to have fun. You just sit and watch TV. I was listening to a local news station when they said that the bishop at the cathedral there in Vermont, sister, was on that first plane, and her husband. So I said to the guys, does anybody want to go to church that day? Well, everybody went but 2 people. And there was one guy who had triplets, and he said for the first time he felt like he really needed to pray. On the 3rd day, we were going to have hot dogs and start to have a little fun when we got the message that we would ferry the plane. There was no chatter on our plane that day, no talking on the plane, where normally there's constant chatter in the headset. When we got to Philadelphia that day, we were the 4th plane they had talked to all day. There was 8 people on my flight, the first flight out of Philadelphia, the first day that we could fly. The first were 2 ladies who had never flown in their life. They were frightened to death. They had bought a cruise, and if they didn't get on the plane, they were not going to be able to go on the boat. There was one old man who come up to me and said, can I hug you? You're not allowed to touch the flight attendant. And I said, okay. And he hugged, and you know what? I needed the hug as much as everybody else did. So I've run out of time. We had 2 more pages. But the bottom line is this, you guys, this is all about taking care of each other. Reach out. Thank you.
Auction. 50% goes to Festival of Words. All right, Nancy, that was a wonderful story, and the memories came back, flooding back for me too, and I'm sure they did for everyone. Another round of applause for Nancy. Okay, last on our list, but not least, is a known name in our Acadiana area, Mr. Dominic Cross. Dominic has been a wordsmith from the beginning and a journalist along the way. He's a freelance writer with a weekly column in the Acadiana Advocate. Welcome to the mic, Dominic Cross.
Testes, testes, back there. Can you hear me all right? You all right? All right. All right. Okay. This is, it's going to be a little bit different. This is a Scarred Spangled Banner. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light, who so proudly we gelled, separated, left screaming, whose broad smiles and bright hopes through their perilous flight at the border were dashed, so ugly and demeaning. Then there's ICE's red glare, the lice in the kids' hair, gave proof to the world that we really don't care. Do you? Oh, how long will our scar-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land formerly free, and the home of the caged. Okay, this one's called Sisters, and it's about, if you remember, we had Katrina, and then we had Rita, right? All right. Katrina. Under the overpass sweat the people of a different class. Black, brown, yellow, and white. Tears of heartbreak, a presidential slight. Levees were breached, and they knew when. Said they didn't know, they're lying again. Disaster capitalists wait in the wings to gentrify the soul of New Orleans. Rita. Under the thumb of God, crops and livestock waterlogged. Holly Beach is washed away, tombs open up like it's Judgment Day. A family's old land, a new insurance rate. Build a lot higher or capitulate. Blue roofs and FEMA trailers, after all they've been through, are but temporary homesteads until the bill comes due. Now, this is the grief. I was editor at the Crowley Post Signal at one time, and the first person from Crowley who was killed in the Iraq War. The grief. Oh, the grief. Oh, the pride. Another American soldier died. An IED took his life, and she will never be his wife. Oh, the grief. Oh, the plight. No bin Laden in Iraq tonight. No WMD, no yellow cake. How many crusades will it take before deed done is, no war won? Just another generation of sons of the gun. All right, lighten up a little bit now, sort of. A little snark here. This is called technology. I got the iBuds in my ears, a Bluetooth chip in my nose. That hands-free electronic device, I can't tell you where it goes. I'm high on Wi-Fi. I'm down with net neutrality. My smartwatch is watching. My car starts without a key. The stove has hidden burners, ice and water in the refrigerator door. Laser beams keep me safe at night. A non-flying saucer cleans my floor. I love me my technology. Makes for a wonderful life. Got my robotic dog and cat. All I need is a Stepford wife. All right, back to reality. It's called How Did We Do It? How did we ever get by without a triple-decker burger and a supersized fry. Bigger ain't better, just a quicker way to die. How did we do it? Why do we do it? We've got SUVs bigger than large, pickup trucks the size of a barge. Whatever happened to the family car? How did we do it? Why do we do it? Misinformation passes as news, but facts are facts. You don't get to choose. When you side with the lies, then we all lose. How did we do it? Why do we do it? We got backpack armor and shooter drills. Run, hide, fight, yet still no bill. Feckless lawmakers are in on the kill. How did we do it? Why do we do it? Global warming is climate change. Beachfront property on a mountain range. Summertime and wintertime sure seems strange. How did we do it? Why do we do it? Nazis in our streets, Putin back for more. Innocent lives are lost when a bad cop is at the door. Might don't make right, no matter what you stand for. How did we do it? Why do we do it? We're paying for the tariffs. We're paying for the wall. We're paying for a president with no conscience at all. Is this what it's like before the fall? How did we do it? Why do we do it? But we got breast implants and Botox injections, all sorts of pills for eternal erections. That about did it for natural selections. How did we do it? Why do we do it? How did we do it? Why do we do it? Found a land of plenty and we went right through it. Might have been blessed, but I think we blew it, and it's sad to say there is nothing to it. Okay, this one's called Ain't Never Gonna Ever Come Home. And actually, that would be your refrain. I'm gonna say a line, and then you can say, ain't never gonna ever come home, or not. Like I'll say, you know, I'll do the first lines and 2 lines, and then you'll maybe catch on, if you want. Davy went to the Alamo, ain't never gonna ever come home. Nothing civil about the Civil War, ain't never gonna ever come home. Custer stood on the Little Big Horn, ain't never gonna ever come home. Remember the Maine and all the pain, ain't never gonna ever come home. The war to end all wars did not, ain't never gonna ever come home. Greatest generation gave all they got, ain't never gonna ever come home. The Korean War still ain't over, ain't never gonna ever come home. All them gone to Vietnam, ain't never gonna ever come home. War, 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 war. War, 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 war. War, war, war. War, 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 war. The first Gulf War wasn't that grand, ain't never gonna ever come home. Back over there, Afghanistan, ain't never gonna ever come home. And why did we attack Iraq? Ain't never gonna ever come home. Yemen, Syria, Cameroon, ain't never gonna ever come home. Just look back on old King George, ain't never gonna ever come home. We've been at war since Valley Forge, ain't never gonna ever come home. Where they gonna send him the next time? Ain't never gonna ever come home. Wherever they send him the next time, ain't never gonna ever come home. War, war, war.
Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging with us and supporting literacy in Louisiana. Thank you, Dominic Cross. Another hand for him. And we're out.